On May 3rd, 2012, a summoner who went by the name Dr. Terrible locked in Singe Jungle with Flash and loaded into a game of League of Legends.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
As the day progressed, more and more people would begin to be seen teleporting across the rift, having no cooldowns on their summoner spells.
Team has destroyed a turret.
For most of its existence, League has been a title that's managed to avoid the typically huge amount of hackers seen in online multiplayer games.
Not only does he look over at a guy he can't see, he then tracks him.
He opens the door and he's like, come here for a minute. And he has me walk into the rift and he goes, we just banned him. And I'm like, what? And he goes, he's botting right now.
But this wasn't always the case, so let me show you. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Are you sick of being absolutely joked by League of Legends bugs and not being able to complain about it to your YouTube audience? Well, it's a good thing Outplayed is sponsoring this video, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to bitch about this. Seriously, right? Outplayed will automatically record all of your best moments, or if you want, your worst moments, because you can customize it however you would like. And then with a single click, or actually probably more like 2 clicks, but it's still pretty low, you can share it however you'd like to. Everything you need to check him out is down in the description below. Let's start off by explaining the exploit that you saw in the intro. League's gone through a lot of iterations over the years, and one of the biggest changes was the overhaul of the runes and masteries system.
Here you can equip statistic boosters called runes into your runebook. These allow you to augment and customize the power of your summoner.
If you're not old like me, back in the day, runes and masteries were actually split into 2. With the runes pages looking something like this. You could add a stat of your choice into each little slot, and each night I have dreams about being able to run 1% crit just one more time. The other part of this system was masteries. They're a bit more similar to what we have today. 3 trees, offensive, defensive, and utility were available, and you had 30 points to put into these however you wanted. But how does this result in an exploit, you might be wondering? Well, these all used to be client-side. A bit of a quick explanation is that information about the game can be rendered for the most part in 2 ways, client-side and server-side. Server-side rendering means that the client, aka your game, makes a request to the server to retrieve, validate, and process information. Nearly all information is stored server-side for online games, and for good reason. Client-side rendering, on the other hand, means that the data is stored on the player's local machine. The server retrieves this data from the client when needed, and if any changes occur on the client side, these changes will eventually be communicated back to the server. Players eventually found out that by using a simple memory manipulation program, like Cheat Engine, yes, that's right, League of Legends felt a cheat engine back in the day, that you could allocate as many points to a mastery as you wanted. As you can see in the picture, normally they're capped at no more than 4, but with Cheat Engine you could manipulate your 30 given points however you wanted to. In the case of Dr. Terrible, and this is his masteries page, he put 7 into the mastery at the bottom of the utility tree where you could normally only put 1. And surprise surprise, with each point this mastery reduced your summoner spell cooldowns by 15%. It was called Mastermind, and it was at the bottom of the tree, and it was pretty cool when you could only put 1 point in it. Putting more points into it is what allowed him and eventually other players to run around the rift like this. Riot did get onto this pretty quickly though, and it resulted in a whopping 622 players being banned. This was written up in an article by Riot that has since been taken off the internet, but thanks to the Internet Archive I can still show you. Quote, Summoners. If you've been playing online games for any length of time, you probably know that most games eventually have to deal with scum of the earth cheaters that enjoy ruining your experience. League of Legends is one of the largest games on the planet, and the downside is that there are more people actively working to find exploits that create an unfair advantage for other players. That's bullshit. Ooh, naughty word. This kind of stuff is unacceptable and will never be tolerated by Riot Games. For those of you that have been reporting the issue, thank you. We've been deleting all threads about it in the forums to keep visibility low, but we've definitely appreciated you making us aware. We identified all of the players that have been using this exploit, and we're going to be taking firm action against their accounts. As we continue to investigate and further analyze data, our primary commitment is identifying players negatively affected and doing everything within our power to make it right.
and I've been drop packed by this Alistair. And the best thing is, Riot won't do anything about this for several months.
Drop packs definitely deserve a brief mention in this video. I've gone fairly in depth about how they work in another video, which I will add to the end screen of this video for you to check out. But in essence, a drop hack was a method of hacking that was far more prevalent in the early days of League, where, in simple terms, the hacker could just delete the game out of existence if it wasn't going well for them. Through an array of methods, they'd discover the IP address for the server being used for the current game and DDoS it, sending a large enough amount of packets so that it would disconnect and the game being played would disappear. This caused multiple issues with ladder integrity, and a game as big as League being able to have their servers manipulated was just not a great sign. Over time, Riot tightened their security and drop hacking and DDoSing as a whole fell out of fashion. But it was briefly brought back into the spotlight recently when the LCK and T1 were both repeatedly hit offline.
Deep frustration that we announced the indefinite suspension of our player streams due to ongoing DDoS attacks. Like, how can this not be fixed? It seems so like, I thought the whole idea, so what people said was that Vanguard was going to stop this. This situation forces us to pause streams, resulting in significant financial implications for our organization.
To this day, T1 are still struggling with these DDoS attacks, as Riot Korea seem to be unable to rectify the issue. But aside from that, all of these drop hacking methods were patched a long time ago, right? Well, you'd think so, but there's also other methods to crash a game which are not as directly malicious and are more so just taking advantage of dodgy code. For example, you used to be able to crash a game by using an item that's in the game.
So you have your Tiamat item right here on slot 6. You're gonna grab it and move it like this, and right as you drop it, you're gonna press 6, okay? Like so. And now the game's broken. And the entire game ends, and it doesn't show up in your match history. Look, you guys can see, there's real people in here. Wukong's spinning out. You see this shit? I can't make this shit up, dude.
As you can probably tell from the quality of this clip though, this was 11 years ago. There's absolutely no way that exploits like this still make it into the game today. Oh, wait.
Where's my game at? My League game crashed. Is everyone else crashed or what? I can't reconnect, my game is crashing!
If you copy and paste these specific special characters to someone's chat in-game, it just breaks something within Vanguard and causes the game to crash.
Reptile, I'm sending down.
I think we try Viol the fellas into one shot. Wait, my game crashed. Hello?
Need to open up hardware monitor. You fucking degenerate, disgusting pig. Fucking degen dog. Oh my god.
It's patched now, but I'm sure something like this won't happen again in the future. Fast forward to 2014 and a new post was made on GameFAQ's forum titled New and Exciting Exploit. You might be thinking, but that's Fiora, not Ashe. The title of the chapter said Ashe. Well, you're right, but hang on, there's more. Slowly through the day, more and more clips began to appear and people started making some connections. This happened in my game. The whole game was bugged. Fiora's auto attacks were ults, but they didn't scale. She could be targeted and she literally couldn't stop once she started. Corki couldn't auto attack at all, but his ult shot in 2 seconds. I was J4 and I couldn't auto at all for the first 15 minutes, and then all my auto attacks did 4 times the damage of my AD. Game was crazy. Did the game have an Ashe? Yes. Ashe's Q is a 2-part ability. It has a passive and an active. The active grants her bonus attack speed for 6 seconds and buffs her auto attacks to fire a flurry of 5 arrows. All in all, pretty standard stuff, but the important part here is that it's self-castable. There's an option in League for abilities that can be cast on yourself and also other players. This includes abilities like Lee Sin's W, Annie's E, and Kale's R. Normally to cast these on other players, you would just hover your mouse over them and press the ability, but when you want to cast these on yourself, it can be a bit clunky to mouse over yourself to cast something as basic as a shield. So Riot, in all of their genius, decided to add this cool feature, self-cast. Typically the hotkey for this will be Alt plus the ability, and it lets you use this hotkey to smart cast the ability on yourself. Ashe's Q isn't like this, you can only cast it on yourself. However, 10 years ago when this exploit was discovered, hackers found out that they could use a script to cast it on other people. This was obviously a real edge case that the developers never really accounted for, and it had some unintended results. But how did it work? Let's dig into the details a little bit. All that Ashe's Q does is replace her auto attack with the Q ability, and League abilities are each assigned a specific slot. For example, let's say Ashe's Q is slot number 45 in League's code. By using a script to cast Ashe's Q on another champion, what you're actually telling the game is, hey, change this champion's auto attack to spell slot 45 for 6 seconds. The thing is though, other champions might have some pretty strong abilities in this slot, which is why Fiora's auto attacks became her ultimate, and Vayne's auto attacks became her condemn. There was a pretty extensive list of all the interactions posted to Reddit in the aftermath of all of this. Most of them interacted kind of weirdly or didn't have the full original effect. Like this one, for example, I can't even begin to imagine what it's meant to be. There was also some cases of Sion being able to abuse this interaction, but it was a little bit less OP than Ashe's Q. All that he could do was replace everyone else's W with his own W, which was still pretty funny. Of course, there were the people who tried to abuse this for LP, and in the end, they all received a ban. In this response from a rioter, hey folks, we're currently aware of the exploit being used to provide unfair advantages in-game, notably regarding skills being used in a manner in which they're not intended. This is not average players taking advantage of a bug, it requires manipulation of the game on a level that's against our terms of service. For security reasons, I can't provide any further details. That's alright, that's what I'm here for. We've been working to release a fix for the issue as soon as possible. I can confirm this is a bannable offense and every player determined to have triggered this exploit will be punished. Thank you for your patience.